So first, a bit about myself. I've joined Heriot-Watt starting in 2009 as an associate professor in EPS. I touched the mechanical engineering department, and as I just said earlier, I'm also the associate program director for the postgraduate studies. A bit of a background of my research areas, mainly in renewable energy. Being a background from mechanical engineering, I focuses a lot more on the fuels, combustion, co-firing of biomass with coals, and also in energy efficiency. I'm a committee member of the Energy Institute for the Malaysia branch. So Energy Institute is a professional body from the UK. I'm also currently a committee of the Palm Oil Sustainability Network and also Palm Oil Certification Council. So a lot of my work involves a lot of bioenergy. Here are some companies there. Actually, they are all startups and involving students. So I'm quite active with student-based startups, working on various projects or research projects on bioenergy. So a bit of background about Heriot-Watt itself. Some of you might not be too familiar because we are still relatively new in Malaysia. So it's actually, we are celebrating our 200 years this year. So started in 1821 in Scotland. And you can see the picture here. This is James Watt. So he's a Scottish engineer who has changed a lot of our way of life and our quality of life throughout from the Industrial Revolution throughout until now. So his name is actually embedded in our university name, Heriot-Watt. And if you can guess, he's heavily involved in energy, and Heriot-Watt itself was started as a mechanics institute. So these two are really closely related, mechanics or mechanical and energy. We have three global campuses. Actually, there's 6 campuses, so 3 in the UK, and then 1 in Dubai, 1 in Malaysia, and 1 JV or joint venture in China. So we are proud to be a global institution where we share a lot of our knowledge and our experiences across all the 6 campuses throughout the world. In Malaysia itself, we started back in 2013. At the time, our building that you see there is not finished yet, and we only populated that building 2015. Yeah, so this is right in Precinct 5 by the lakeside in Putrajaya. Okay, let's get back to our main topics. So I'll just introduce you sustainable development. So this is what the whole world is going to. Now we are trying to continue to develop, to continue to progress the human activities, but in doing so, we have to be sustainable. So the UN actually established the Sustainable Development Goals. Some of you might be familiar with this. So there are 17 goals, and this is what the whole world is striving towards. So by 2050, we're expecting close to 10 billion of world population, and if we are moving as we are now, or if we are living as we are now, without thinking about sustainability, it will not be sufficient to progress in the world. So these 17 goals are what we are striving towards, but I can just point out a few. Goal number 7, number 9, 11, 12, 13 and 14 is what we are really focused on at Heriot-Watt, especially at the School of Engineering and Physical Sciences. And how do we get there? So we are now convinced, the proof is all out there, that carbon dioxide emission is the main culprit. And really to get there, we have to have a zero CO2 or net zero outlook. So what we are doing here, we want to reduce human-based or anthropogenic carbon dioxide emission down to zero. So naturally, CO2 will be given out by the earth, and this is part of the natural process, but we should not be adding our human activities to the CO2 tally. So we want to limit, I mean, we are already in global warming. As you experience now, we have a lot of climate change happening, a lot of droughts, a lot of floodings, and the world doesn't actually follow the natural cycle as before. But what we can do now is try to limit this warming down to 1.5 degrees average. So this is coming from a 2020 baseline or base number. So what we need to do then, by 2050, should have a net zero CO2, and then by 2060 to 2070, net zero of all greenhouse gases. If we don't achieve this, we will not achieve the 1.5 degree increase. And how to do that? Okay, so on the table on the left shows countries that is going towards net zero, and you can see there Bhutan is actually already achieved net zero. So I don't know if you know where Bhutan is, but this is a very unique country where you have a lot of renewable resource in the form of hydropower, and they're actually producing more than they need and exporting to India and China, to their neighbors. So they already achieved zero carbon emission. But the other countries have put targets, and you can see they're led by mainly the Europeans, but there are only others as well. We don't have our target yet for net zero, but we have targets for reducing our carbon intensity by 45% by 2025. Well, there are some small prints by 2025 to 2030. So to do that, we need to look at these 10 key solutions. Number 1 and number 2 is the most related to what we are doing at EPS. So we have to not only reduce but phase out all coal power plants, which we still have in Malaysia, and at the same time invest more on clean and efficient energy production. In terms of number 5, shift to electric vehicles. So we can see, I think starting from last year and this year, lot more countries moving towards this. And from the latest report that I've seen, we have reached a 10 million numbers of electric vehicles worldwide. So it is very small compared to the total number of vehicles, which is in the billions. But we are, we reached a significant milestone already this year. 6 and 7, so increase public transport and decarbonize aviation shipping. So these are all related to transportation as well. So two main things, energy and transportation. And if you come back to Malaysia, these are the two main contributors of CO2 and greenhouse gases for our country. So the world itself is transiting, or what we call in the industry the energy in transition. So we are seeing in the last 10 years, the whole world is moving towards cleaner energy and also more efficient energy. We are not too bad ourselves. In terms of our growth in the last 10 years, we are 39th in the world and second in the Southeast Asian region. And mainly even in Malaysia, we are having more and more new efficient thermal power plants, and we are also having RE growth. So these numbers is taken from the World Economic Forum. So if you are interested, you can look at that publication. publication that I can share this. So the previous one was published in April. This one was published in March this year. So this talks about RE capacity growth in 2020. So despite the global pandemic that we are having now, RE is seeing record growth. It grows more than before. Overall, as an energy industry, the whole sector didn't grow last year. But what we are seeing, renewable energy is growing larger than before, larger than 2019. What that means then, the non-renewables are facing a slump. So that's why the overall is no growth in terms of energy. So this break down the types of energy. You have hydro is growing slower compared to wind and solar, and bioenergy is still growing quite slowly as well compared to the rest. What you can see on the numbers at the right, most of this growth, more than half, 64%, is occurring in Asia, mainly in China and Southeast Asia. So this is the two main growth for renewables in the world. Okay, I would like to pose this question to the audience, but I don't see many people here, so I can probably ask and answer myself. So we talk about energy in transition. So in Malaysia, we have these four main sources of energy, and the largest source is actually coal, followed closely by gas. So both coal and gas is about 40+%, and then we have big RE, and then very small oil. So 80% is coal and gas, and then maybe about 2% oil, and the rest is renewables. And when we look at renewables itself, so we have these four renewable generation in Malaysia at the moment. We have bioenergy, solar, hydro, and wind. As you might expect, hydro is the largest. So hydro accounts for about 13% of our total energy, and then solar is followed by solar, small amount of bioenergy, and the smallest is actually wind. Which brings us to this program. So we have the Masters in Renewable Energy Engineering really to meet the demand, or to meet the growth in demand for human capital, which we are expecting in the next 5-10 years and beyond. We are rapidly moving towards cleaner energy, moving towards renewable energy, and this is where we see there's a lot of specialist knowledge or specialist human capital, specialist workers required, which will not be catered purely from the bachelor's degree, and a lot of professionals or even people finishing their bachelor's degree will be required to do a master's level program to fit those human capital that will be needed in the next 5-10 years. And so the course itself have the program itself have these courses. So you have 8 core courses and 1 elective course, and we try to cover all the technicalities of all renewable energy. So you will look first at the foundations of energy as well as renewable energy technologies. So in the foundation of energy, we will cover all forms of energy, conventional as well as renewables. So really, this is a very technical course. So you have to have a background in engineering to be able to follow these foundations of energy. And renewable energy technologies introduce all the renewable energy that I've shown earlier, and also some of what we don't have in Malaysia as well. So things like marine energy, geothermal energy, and so on. The course itself also look at economics, so not just purely technical. If you talk about renewable energy projects, you have to have a good, solid knowledge in the technical, but you need to know as well all the economics to make sure that it works. Yeah, and this is what actually leading to the growth in the last decade, because of the financial gains or the economics that is learned in the last 10 years that makes renewable viable as an energy option comparable to conventional energies. You will also look at the energy management and storage. So this is a course that, renewable energy is something that is you have to harness when it's available, whether you have demand or not. So if you have less demand in the grid, then you have to look at storage. How do we store this energy for later use? Every project we have to have an EIA. So being a master's level program, we will look at environmental impact assessment tailored towards renewable energy projects. And then you have the master's dissertation and research preparation. So this is a research project that you will take on in your third semester. And also another one is the advanced renewable energy engineering. So this is a project-based course where you will develop a real renewable energy system that can be put in place. On the optional course, we have two electives, one on heat transfer and one on electrical power system. So both are closely related to power generation, but in this case, we are tailored towards renewables themselves. So how is the renewables transmit power to the grid, and how do we extract thermal energy from renewable systems? This program is the only program in Malaysia to be accredited by the Energy Institute and recognized by Engineering Council UK. So the Energy Institute is a professional body based in the UK where you can apply for chartership or to be a chartered engineer. So by going through this program, you have done the first step. You have ticked the first box in getting your chartered engineer with a UK professional body. And also, we have instructors or lecturers that can help with this certified energy manager for ASEAN as well as Malaysia. So we have certified lecturers under AMAS and MEPA as well. So a bit about the Energy Institute itself. So this is from the UK. It's a professional body where, unlike any other discipline-based body, this is industry-based. What I mean here is not purely strictly for mechanical or electrical. It's actually open to all technical professionals working in the energy industry. So as you can see, the heat map here, these are where the locations of our members, mainly in the Klang Valley, but we have some where we have major industrial or engineering area. So we have some in Perak, some in Pahang, some in Johor. And then if you look in East Malaysia, we have in Kuching, Bintulu, Miri, and Kota Kinabalu. So these are like the hotspots for engineering or energy professionals. Now, Heriot Ward itself is a learning affiliate. What this means then, every student enrolled in Heriot Ward at EPS gets free student membership from the Energy Institute. So with that membership, you have access to all the knowledge from Energy Institute. Energy Institute itself is also a 200-year-old institute, and you can get a lot of experience and knowledge available from their website You get a monthly magazine on energy as well on petroleum industry. And we do offer or invite specialized career and membership talks from the 300 over members that we have residing in Malaysia. So it's a good opportunity to connect with professionals in the industry, and you get this free membership by enrolling as a student of the EPS at Heriot Wak. Okay, so the next program that I will touch upon is the Advanced Mechanical Engineering. So this is a postgraduate level course. So it's a second degree after your bachelor's degree. And this is a discipline-based mechanical engineering. So it can be used as a course to register with the Board of Engineers of Malaysia. So if you took a 3-year engineering or 3-year mechanical engineering course as your first degree, then you have this option as a second degree for you to be able to register with the Board of Engineers in Malaysia. For BM registration is a requirement to be a professional engineer in Malaysia to apply for PE. And our program can do that. Being a second degree is also a specialist course. So we will look at the courses offered. So this is a specialist program. So, and even if you took a 4-year BEng, this will actually add specialist knowledge to your bachelor's degree. So just quickly going through the core courses. So the specialist engineering technologies is where we introduce specialist tools and softwares, things like specialist CAD software, specialist simulation software for fluid dynamics or thermodynamics, specialist software for structural analysis, mechanics analysis. So this will be taught in, apology for my typo. So you have the Specialist Engineering Technologies 1 and Specialist Engineering Technologies 2. So you have both of them. And then you have failure accident analysis. So safety is a core subject in engineering, especially so for mechanical engineering, where you are exposed to a lot of risks involving heavy or large equipments. So we have a specialist course that we look at failures and accidents in engineering. And then you have the same research preparation and master's dissertation. So I will talk about that in a bit more detail later as well. So you have to do all these core courses, and then you have to select 3. So there's actually 6 core courses and then 3 optional courses. So here is where you can explore your interests. So you will look at more fluids 1 or fluids 2, or you can look at thermodynamics 1 to thermodynamics 2. So here you will get more details once you enroll. For example, in fluids 1, we look a lot more on aerodynamics. We look at involving air, and if you can relate that to renewable as well, as a picture here of a wind turbine. So we look at the wind turbines, propellers, hydro turbines. So they're quite similar. How it works and how you can get energy, or how you can generate work from this. But when you go into fluids 2, then you look more into the fluids movement. So you look into pipelines, you look into how you store, how you maintain energy, or how much you lose energy from pipelines and all that. So even though it says fluids 1 and fluids 2, both are related, but you don't have to take both. So if you take fluids 1 in the first semester, you don't have to take fluids 2 in the second semester. So similarly, when you talk about thermodynamics 1, thermodynamics 2, so one of them looks at more on the combustion side, and the other one looks at more on the heat exchanger and heat transfer side. So you can take both. If it's related to your field, you can cover both specialist knowledge in thermodynamics, or you can have one and take a different one. So these are all very similar when you look at it. So we have some shared courses with the renewable energy engineering, like the renewable energy technologies. And we also have some shared courses from petroleum engineering, such as oil and gas field appraisal and oil and gas field development. So if you're interested more towards oil and gas, you can also look at that with these courses. So you have an option to choose 3 elective courses, and as you go into the program, you get more information on what topics are covered in those courses. So a bit on our program itself. You will be taught by experienced members of staff. I just want to point out in this slide that all of our staff teaching the master's courses or master's programs are 100% PhD holders, and 70% of them have professional certification from various professional bodies. So they are either chartered engineers from the Energy Institute or from the IMECI, or they're professional engineers under BEM or under Australian institute. So very experienced and very qualified staff. They'll be teaching both programs. So some of them are listed here, so you can have a look here as well. Mainly when you talk about the research project or the master's dissertation, so you will have these staff coaching or supervising as well, and involved in all of these focus areas. So renewable energy, energy efficiency, energy management, so these are 3 very related to each other. We have PV, solar PV, and also solar thermal systems specialists, solar water pumping, sustainability, and also health and safety environment certified engineer as well. So this will be your instructors or your supervisors for the projects, as well as during the lectures. We have, even though we only started the master's program in the last few years, we actually have received a lot of funding from international organizations. So we are active in the Global Challenge Research Fund from the UK, Royal Energy Academy, Royal Academy of Engineering, and the Energy Academy as well, both from the UK. So we have currently even active projects under the GCRF amounting to a couple of 100,000 ringgit. Now, for the Masters in Advanced Mechanical Engineering, you are also supported by the Department of Mechanical Engineering. So on top of that staff that will be teaching the program directly, you can also tap into the Mechanical Engineering Department to be your project supervisors, or even to gain general knowledge in mechanical engineering. And we are very industry based, so we have staff that is very closely related to industry. You can see the list here. We have projects working with Daikin, Matex Steels, Continental, and so on. Most of them involve a lot on energy projects actually, even though they are mechanical based. So we look at the mechanical systems, mechanical related equipments, but how can we actually improve the efficiency and reduce the energy consumptions of these systems. Now, the undergraduate mechanical engineering is accredited by the Institute of Mechanical Engineers. This advanced mechanical engineering program will only start this year. So in order to be accredited, you have to have the program running first. So, but we are confident that as the program is being delivered similarly across 3 campuses between UK, Dubai, and Malaysia, and similar with our bachelors, BEng and MEng being accredited by IMECI, we are actually confident that the advanced mechanical engineering, once we have our cohort graduated, will be accredited by the IMECI as well. Okay, just a closing remark. You know, the world is moving towards sustainable development, and a key aspect or a key solution in achieving the sustainable development is renewable energy. Hence, the program that we offer in renewable energy engineering. And also to help with this, as you are aware, all energy systems require mechanical engineers. Yeah, and we see that this is another growth or another demand in career prospects, yeah, that will happen in the next 5 to 20 years. In fact, Talent Corp for Malaysia actually identified mechanical engineering to be an essential talent in the next 5 years for the nation. So we have a lot of mechanical engineering graduates coming up from all the higher learning institution in Malaysia, but we are lacking in the specialist mechanical engineering knowledge or mechanical engineers. So at the master's level. So this is considered to be an essential for the next 5 years in Malaysia. Okay, that actually comes to the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. No, if I don't see any prospects. So we are actually at the end of the just come to the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Adlan, for the presentation. Is there any further question on the MSc Renewable Energy Engineering?
No, I think it's quite clear. Hi, Alan. I'm Ying. Would you share us the slides?
Yeah, I think we can share the slides.
Yeah, because I think there's 2 slides that is actually quite useful for us, which is the one that you share on the partnerings and who are our partners, industrial partners and etc. I think that 2 slides is something quite useful for us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Adlan, since there's no question about MSc REE, I'll pass back the session to you.
Yeah, so actually I've done both for the RE
Sorry.
and AME.
Okay, so if there's no further questions, so thank you, Dr. Adlan, as well as all participants for your attendance today. So for tomorrow, there will be another session, which will be from our built environment programs, CMQS, Commercial Management and Quantity Surveying, as well as Construction Project Management. So should you have further inquiry, please feel free to contact either myself or Dr. Adlan. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.